That should beat New Orleans.
The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, this is Sunday Blether. Sadly, it is not, though, with the main man, Regan Stevenson. He's off gallivanting, as always. It's Transmit, I believe, today, but you're stuck with me instead this fine Sunday lunchtime. Sunglasses are on. It's the summertime. And as ever, we are joined by Mark Kearney, a.k.a. Judge Kearney. How are you, big man?
I'm doing good, mate. Yourself? Since Regan's away, it's 9 away to festivals. We'll do the show without him, mate. We'll be fine.
Mate. It's an impossible act to follow, but I'm going to have to try and do my absolute best, mate, my absolute best to be up to Regan's standard. Last night we seen the return of Celtic, Mark. It had been a long time. I know we played the friendly sort of midweek, Mark, but to me, I think the real pre-season action began last night. What was your sort of takeaway thoughts from it? Anything in particular that really stood out and grabbed you, mate?
Well, I thought it was an excellent workout for the team. I thought it was almost like an early qualifying round for the Champions League. Decent opposition. And a takeaway for the match, in my opinion, was the intensity in which Celtic played in the first half was akin to what we've seen very early last season with Celtic. Also, there's a wee bit of rusty legs in there. I think Matt O'Reilly touched on that, but that's natural. A lot of guys have been on the beach, rightly so. They worked hard. But my takeaway is a positive performance. The result doesn't really matter, although I'd like to see Celtic win everything they play.
I think it's very interesting you mentioned the intensity thing, Mark, because what we actually found being a common denominator, stroke, excuse, stroke, maybe valid reason for Celtic falling away in games was, well, we never quite had the full pre-season with Ange and the team's still adapting to this high intensity. I actually think it's a very encouraging sign that, as you say, we came at the traps in a pre-season friendly, the first one of the campaign, after an extended summer by Cal McGregor's standards. Let's see, he had 3 weeks or something. He'll not known what to have done with himself the last 3 weeks. But you look at the attitude, and obviously from day one, or match day one, striking with that intensity, and you think, that's got to help us be better equipped going into this new season than what we were adapting to to Angie's sort of Ange ball, if you like, last year. Does that make sense? I think we could be looking this year much, much better equipped to play the way the manager wants.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're on social media, you'll have seen videos of Joe Hart, Kyogo and Hatate. They two were actually training with their old clubs while they're on holiday. The two of them are training with their clubs just to keep the fitness up. But I think the days of football players going away to Tenerife for 2 weeks and eating hot dogs, I think they're over, Bhoycie. And I think what we've found is the week will fall by the wayside. And I think the intensity of this training sessions that Angie's giving the players, which has been touched on by former players and coaches that's worked with them, the intensity is really sharp. And I think if you're going to be a serious contender for starting places in this team, you're going to have to be mentally and physically able. And I think Ange and the coaching staff have done a good job last year, because there was a second half drop-off with a lot of players last season. Yeah. I think mostly that was coming from our players that were working extremely hard. I don't think it was a collective. I think because it might surprise people, but I think we only lost one goal in the last 10 minutes of a match all season, out with the Hearts game. So that tells you that a team is mentally focused, but also physically they've got the ability to stay in the match and stay focused. And also on the flip side, I think Celtic scored almost 30 goals in the last quarter of the matches they played last season in the league. So I think the second half drop-off was not a myth, but I think to keep that intensity...
I know what you mean.
So to keep the intensity up, Bhoycie, would mean we had 11 athletes rather than 11 football players who behave like athletes.
That's a great point as well. No, I agree with that, actually, because you're right. When you condense the stats and you look at the actual crucial aspects of Celtic's game management, if you will, last year, those stats absolutely put to bed that, the second half Celtic were a side that fell away. However, before you tell me that, Mark, if you asked me if we fell away a lot last season in the second half, I'd have said aye. Genuinely. I think it's
the conception. It's the perception, sorry, mate. And it's easy how a perception becomes a reality. I mean, I remember when Joe Hart signed, there was multiple reports that Joe Hart can't dive to the left. So that was which is a fucking bizarre statement, but that was a perception by even Celtic fans were tweeting this, and which is ironic because yeah, it was portrayed as I know, mate, and there was clips of him losing goals to his left hand side, and I think, I don't know if maybe even if a couple of goals that Lee Griffiths scored against him were to his left hand side, they were maybe used as a case in point that made it very bizarre. But when there's a perception, it becomes a reality very quickly. And I think I like the analytics. I know a lot of people don't like the analytics. A lot of podcasts slag them, but what analytics does for you is breaks away the emotional side of the football and gives you a kind of bigger picture. Like, it didn't take analytics for me to realise that Anthony Ralston was creating a lot of goals and creating a lot of crosses, and he was marauding up the pitch. But what the analytics showed me was just how much he's actually getting into the game, how he's transitioning from defence to attack. So, on your point, mate, the perception does become reality very quickly unless you actually just put the blinkers on and just watch the match just see the match that you're watching and just forget about the background noise, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's interesting with the analytics aspect of it. That's the loudest cup in Europe, by the way. And see that wee logo in the front?
Listen, I'm going to take the lid off of that, because even when everybody tells me
I thought you were out fixing the motor or something like that. Like, he's changing remember that? Take the petrol cap off.
God, I dropped a bag of ice during the live show one night, and God, I think all the contributors like busted eardrums. Sorry about that, guys. Carry on, mate. I'll know you anymore.
No, you're all right. You're all right. Look at that Bhoycie Bus logo in the front as well. Touch it.
Oh, I didn't mean that, mate. That was an accident.
Touch it. Oh, you put it down just perfectly, mate. I like it. What I was going to say though about analytics, it's very interesting. You say it removes the emotion. Now, I think there's a negative side to that as well, because I think a player can then be judged in a manner where I'm going, but look at the pressure they were under. look at the intensity of the game. Look how many minutes they've been on the park at that point. It might be in the first touch of the ball, then it's a shot off target that looks against them. It might be in the last minute with Buffon running out to them, and it's a World Cup final, and you're going, well, their XG though doesn't quite add up. And I think you're right. If you could take the emotion out, you might feel in your mind you're giving a more balanced look at, for example, Anthony Ralston's displays last year, because you're not looking at it as ex-Celtic youth and we want them to do well. You're looking at the whole, the harsh reality of the numbers, or the good reality of the numbers in Tony Ralston's case. But I also feel sometimes with the analytics about taking out the emotion of it, though, then leads you into a fake environment, because football is played with emotion. I know a lot of the EPL players, Mark, would ideally not have any emotion when they play. These wee, pansies, mate. But in my opinion, football is played in high pressure environments. It is played in derby matches that have extra sort of levels of, I don't know what the word is, like volatile environments and intensity. Aye. And I think as well, when you're looking at appearances to goals to assists, that can be very much misconstrued sometimes. I know we're going to talk about Jordan Larson later. I was looking at his 62 games, 26 goals. What I don't know, just looking at those stats, and I still think that's a good ratio, and we will get to this, but I don't know how many of those were 5-minute cameo sub-appearances, Mark.
Aye.
I don't know.
How many were 25-yarders, how many were tap-ins. So I think there's a saying, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. It's a saying that it does, you can mould a statistic to create any narrative you want, Bhoycie. And absolutely, a guy me and you speak about quite a lot, Giakoumakis. In the game we won 2-1 at Ibrox, on social media and the press, the biggest talking point was how much work Maeda was doing on the press, when actually that match, Giakoumakis created more pressing actions on the stats.
That's
so
mad.
It kind of now, which isn't surprising to me, because I think the two derby matches that we saw off quite easily, Giakoumakis played a vital role. Maybe no to the untrained eye. That's not what I'm saying. But no, if you're looking for just action on the ball, you wouldn't have noticed how much work that guy did and what he was actually doing. He was controlling their centre backs. Their centre backs couldn't come out. He was all over the place, boys. He was nudging people aside. The way we've spoken about before, we're needing a bit of muscle. You don't need that much muscle in midfield if you've got a striker that's gonna drop them deep and controlling two defenders the way he was doing it. That creates space left and right. We've got guys like Maeda, Jota, Abada that can run. It just creates havoc, and that's where I think mistakes were made with team selection with the last derby match. But we'll not go into that. That's gone there, isn't it? We could go down a rabbit hole, mate.
Well, we might go down that rabbit hole in a wee bit later when we're talking about potential forward options for Celtic and what we think the pros and cons are of that. And we have got a wee bit of debate about that lined up, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we are 13 minutes in. No, it's not the Martin O'Neill klaxon, although that technically is the Martin O'Neill klaxon because I just said Martin O'Neill's name. But it is time that I say, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe if you want to become a member. I think we got another 2 members last night. A big thank you to everyone who's become a member and supported the channel. But of course, it's optional. Hitting the subscribe button, turning your notifications on, giving each show a wee like if you're about, does wonders for the channel as well. So please, if you can do that, that'd be magic. It's free content, mate.
People don't realise when you subscribe, they think there's a monetary item, monetary involved.
Aye.
Subscribing just means, anybody that doesn't know, it just means that you get notifications if the show's going live or if you've missed a show. It doesn't cost you a penny because a lot of folk don't understand that.
That's it. It's that simple, guys. It's that simple. Anyway, we will carry on talking a wee bit about last night. 3 goals Celtic scored. And I think that is the positive I take from it, Mark, is 3 goals already away from home, 3 different scorers as well. David Turnbull picking up very much where he left off prior to his injury. David Turnbull, we were talking about on the Sunday Blether, well, you and Regan certainly were, about if there were to be an asset sold. And I think you and Regan were having fair debate about it because Celtic, year on year do tend to sell an asset. The only time they didn't, they lost the league. So they might definitely think this year, no, we'll go back to selling an asset. We win the league when we do that. David Turnbull was one of the names that came up as a potential dispensable member of the squad. I know it's one pre-season game, so we can't have it both ways and say meaningless friendly and then David Turnbull's a world beater on the basis that he got a goal. But again, attitude and application were all there for me. Those two boxes were ticked, Mark. A tidy finish. His numbers don't lie. He was double figures for both last year, both goals and assists, talking of analytics. David Turnbull brings a brilliant option in midfield for me, Mark. I think this year, and again, it's something we intend to talk about today in the Sunday Blether, is competition for places is going to be absolutely vital at Celtic. And there seems to be a narrative right now about, oh, well, who's he going to replace if we signed him? Who's he going to make? I've never known this before. It's a squad that we're building here. And football's never been more of a squad game, Mark, than what it is right now. We're going to need 4 players for 2 midfield roles, or 4 wingers for 2 winger roles. We're going to need 3 forwards for 1 forward role, 4 centre-backs for 2 centre-back roles, 4 full-backs for 2 full-back roles. This is common sense. I think David Turnbull will get plenty of minutes next season, even if come match day 1, and you kind of get a sort of hankering for who Angie's then ideal midfield will be if everyone's fit. But even if David Turnbull doesn't start that day, I still think he'll get more than enough game time this year, and I think can play a crucial part as well.
Well, I think the evidence that he was given the captain's armband in the second half shows you that Ange sees him as a key part of the team. One thing Ange has done, it's kind of went unnoticed, I feel, was I've heard a few players talk about it, is see the players that aren't getting a match week in, week out. See when they've come out and out the cold, they've played like they've just played the last 5 matches.
Yes.
And he's got a mentality in the squad where you might not be playing every week. You might even go 3-4 weeks if you even get an appearance. But this is a squad game, and you're going to be part of a team, a collective. And it's good for the dynamic of the team that every player's got somebody breathing down their necks. I mean, we've spoke before about Joe Hart's position, and would he be more beneficial to him if he had somebody breathing down his neck? Well, he's found that in Seagrass. I think he'll be competition long term.
Me too.
But yeah, definitely. And I think on the Turnbull, I mean, I was the one that was going about how dispensable he could be. I was more going on about the dynamic of the team itself and how we play, and would losing him kind of cause as much harm in the structure of the team? I didn't think it would. But on the other side, I mean, David Turnbull come back to a horrendous injury, so there's nobody more determined for his Celtic career to go well than him. And I think if you noticed last night as well, again, it was only a friendly match, the intensity and the application by some of the players, including him, was really, really encouraging for me. And that's what I like about Angie's teams, Bhoycie, is that it feels to me as like their dads came to watch them play football, and every one of them is getting an extra yard of pace. You know what I mean?
That's an interesting point as well. I think guys that have been out in the cold, you're absolutely right as well. They seem to come in with the right mindset as well. This is what it's all about. We aren't just looking right now for players, Mark, to come in and just play in a certain way. They've got to have the right attitude, mate. Nobody, we can't afford to have one player out of our main 24, 25 who've been in a cream puff, mate, because they've not been getting picked. All right?
No.
And I think the days of Ange babysitting people, Mark, I think, won't be there this season. I think it's going to have to be a tough school, mate, because that's the only way you can progress in life, is if you have a tough school. Now, a lot of these people could have been crying to their manager last season, Mark. They could have been saying, oh, how come I'm not getting picked? And, it's not really fair. I'm not getting a fair crack at the whip, etc. This year, it's going to be, you're left to it. You are left to it. And see if you cannot step up and find the right mindset to do so, you'll be out the door. Now, I think anyone that you see getting minutes under Ange Postecoglou right now, he's not giving those minutes out for free anymore, Mark. So anyone that we've seen in that pitch yesterday has shown in training the right attitude. the right
Yeah,
attitude.
absolutely.
He's not going to be giving out free coupons, game time coupons to players that aren't going to be playing. He's not like that, mate. And I think it's the right attitude. I like Ange's attitude with it because it's too easy in the modern world, mate, to be worrying about everyone and over caring about everyone and trying to mollycoddle everyone through every little bit of life. You can't do it. And the modern footballer can be very guilty of that, Mark, right now. They don't understand how to take any sort of adversity at all. And I think Ange's going to be this year going, you just don't get it. See, as much as this might be your big chance at Celtic, James McCarthy, well, this is my big chance at Celtic. I'm Ange Postecoglou. I've got, 2 continents, watching with bated breath as I take on the Premier competition in European club football. I want to be making a statement here, and I'll be doing that with 24 players who are all got the right attitude, who all are going to play for the jersey. And anyone we've seen in the park last night, Mark Kearney, trust me, Ange doesn't give out freebies to anyone. It's not the way it's going to be. And I was delighted to see the likes of David Turnbull, James McCarthy, who we've touched on, take their chance. Let's move on, though, to another player who made his sort of debut, if you like, because, again, I'm not counting that 100-0 game, midweek. Alexandro Bernabei, mate. He's not left back, is he? He was playing where Son plays for Spurs. He was just hogging the left wing. I've never seen so much space behind the left back in my life. I don't know if you just put that. I mean, we're not going to concern ourselves overly with it. It's 145 minutes. He certainly though looks to me like a player right now, Mark, who is going to be very, very enthusiastic with his forward intentions, mate.
I think he needs work done, but Bhoycie, I agree with you there. He made 8 mistakes within the first 27 minutes. 5 led to panic in the box, 2 led to a corner, and 1 led to a save. Now, it's 45 minutes, Bhoycie, but we can only comment on the 45 minutes. I can't see the future. So the 45 minutes wasn't impressive. He actually reminded me of Bolingoli's game in Europe, where if he was a football player, he was just running forward. He was just like, his tactical awareness in this system was absolutely abysmal. To be honest with you, I think we're going to have to accommodate that, Bhoycie. If that means Callum McGregor dropping back the way that Scott Brown used to drop back and cover Tierney, fair enough. We're going to lose Callum McGregor's creativity and his recycling of the ball.
Sure.
So I don't think it was an accident that we signed Bernabei, because the clips I've seen Bernabei is the way he plays, Bhoycie. Okay.
Yes.
And actually the press and the journalists who were commenting on were saying he is a very aggressive defender. Kieran Tierney, when he's going forward, he goes forward. And to me, I'm not a big critic of that, Bhoycie, but you've got to learn to come back. And there was one occasion that he actually gave the ball away. And the time that the person who won the ball, the player who won the ball, had made his first pass, he was about 5-6 yards behind the play. And that's not good enough, Bhoycie. And as I say, it's only 45 minutes. So anybody that's thinking that me and you are criticising him is absolutely taking it the wrong way. We can only comment on what we've seen. Now, if he's going to be a starting 11 player, and last night wasn't an accident, that is the way he plays. That wasn't a one-half. It might develop, and it might nurture himself into your system, but we will definitely have to accommodate that. Whether that's Carter Vickers or Starfelt going a wee bit wider and narrowing the space, that's fine, but also leaves gaps for, I don't know, is Hatate going to have to be covering middle of the park? Is McGregor having to be sitting a bit deeper? I don't want to see McGregor and Hatate sitting deeper. We might get away with that in Scotland, Bhoycie, but I don't think that, like I said, James Tavernier would be scared of playing up against that with the space he's going to have in behind him.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think as well, because it's pre-season, he was a wee bit off the pace, so getting back. And then I thought, his season, though, I think is in full flow in Argentina, is it not? So
it's not an accident, Bhoycie, aye.
He's not in pre-season like the rest of the squad is, so that kind of put to bed to that. But we will watch with intrigue as Alexandro Bernabei's career continues at Celtic? Because I think
just
it
an
is fair-
observation, boys. Isn't it? It's just an observation by the both guys.
Absolutely.
It isn't a critique on the guy's performance. It's just an observation.
No, and it was interesting to see just how ambitious a player he looks like he's going to be, and it'll be up to Celtic as we get different types of players added to the squad, and there will be, I think, one or two more arrivals at the very least, Mark, into the squad, and they might be specialist players that Ange has identified because he's got the luxury of this elongated summer where he's actually got time to go. No, I've like that's a specialist player I want for this role, or he might be looking at using different formations. I know there seems to be this strange theory, Mark, right now that Ange can only play one way. So if we sign a player, it's got to mean one in, one out. I mean, I just think that's
nonsense.
I think it's actually a bit insulting to our manager. I think Postecoglou's more than aware of the term. There's many ways to skin a cat, and I think he will have to utilise more than one formation if we were to have a relatively successful European campaign. And with that, guys, I am not saying Celtic's going to be lifting trophies or in finals or anything like that. As nice as it would, obviously, for as nice as it would be for us to be in that position, no one's putting that expectation, that pressure on them to do so, Mark. Absolutely, fundamentally not. But what we would say is, if Ange is going to have success domestically, and there'll be scrappier games there'll be away games, so we're needing a last-minute goal and things like that, or it'll be a tighter pitch, or the weather's going to be shocking and not really suiting to total football. There could be games where we're playing a Paris Saint-Germain and they're going to have 90% possession, Mark. You can't tell me we can approach all these games just for Ange's one formation in mind. I mean, I don't know where this narrative came from. I certainly don't see Ange only using, firstly, one formation this season, secondly, only being capable of one formation. I think it's a bit of a slap in the face to Ange, and I think it's time we realise that Ange's building a squad here, and that squad will be formed with the ability to play in several different ways to combat the different natures of fixtures that we play this year in various competitions.
Yeah, well, I think that stupid narrative comes from the fact that the players we've got and the backup players we've got are very similar players. That's an excellent thing, because that means that when players that are coming in, for instance, if O'Reilly is being replaced by Turnbull, the style of the attack stays the same. If Anthony Ralston's replacing Juranovic, the style of defending stays the same. Now, I sit in the top tier, Bhoycie, which is a vantage point for me, because I can see players move about. I can see almost formations taking shape and dispersing again. So I can see a lot of what's going on, you know what I mean? And I watch quite a lot of what's going on. And the formation does change quite a lot. You know what I mean? It does change quite a lot. I think the narrative of the Ange Ball one system is an insult to the guy, because not only was he adapting to how we play away in Europe, he was also adapting to how we play at home in Europe. If you watch you've watched the Real Betis game, the away game, I think we lost the game 4-3.
It was a crazy game.
Yeah, it was almost in reverse. It was a swashbuckling performance, emphasis on attack. I think he was actually testing the waters. I think he was testing the players to see how far he could push them, to be honest with you. But the home match with the almost second string was a lot more pragmatic.
That's so true.
And you can't have both systems being accused of having it being the one tactic. Now we actually have got one tactic, and that's to play the Celtic way, inverted fullbacks, overlaps. But it doesn't mean that the actual how we get there stays the same. How we drop back and defend, how and when we press change. In fact, how and when we press changes normally in the first half to the second half for a start. You can almost see that. The first half we're a lot more aggressive. We've normally got Kyogo, Giakoumakis right up on the defenders. Second half they seem to sit a bit deeper. So there's different variations to how we're actually playing. And I'm an untrained eye, but with my vantage point in the top tier, boys, I can see a lot of it. You know what I mean? It's almost like the way you'd watch a game on TV, or you can see large areas of the pitch, unrestricted, and I think that myth is a myth, and I think people need to wisen up and stop insulting the manager and the players. You know what I mean? The guy's very educated in how to play football. If he'd one system, Bhoycie, he wouldn't have a second season at any club he's ever been at, because it would be found out. In fact, it'd be found out in the second half of each club he goes to. The second half of the season, when you get into playing each team third times and fourth times, they'll have sussed you out by then. You know what I mean?
It's so true, mate. I mean, I'll go back to it, Mark. Right now, when Andrew signed, I wasn't shouting from the rooftops about some of his achievements in the game, but everyone else seemed to be saying, you know, he's won 4 Australian League titles and things like this, right? See, when you actually look at when he won his first Australian League titles in the 90s, mate. Now, you tell me how football's came along since the 90s, right? Are you telling me he was playing the exact same formation when he won the Australian title in the 90s as to what he is now? No, because there's no longevity in football by playing the same formations, the same system for 26 years. So you can't praise him for winning these tournaments, league titles, whatever, by playing a completely different system. Then tell us once he's at Celtic, he only plays one way, though. He only plays one way. It's bullshit. And it's just nonsense. And his trophy-laden career that we were told he has been won playing different styles of football in each. The philosophy.
One philosophy, boys. One philosophy.
You just stole the words. There you go, mate. One philosophy, many ways to skin a cat, Mark. That's what folk need to get in their heads. And I think there seems to be an attitude. We're going to go for the Hollywood story into the second half hour of the show, Mark, because Jordan Larson right now is being linked heavier and heavier with Celtic. We've seen Sky Sports running with the story of late. We've seen a couple of journalists tweeting about it now, picking up pace. One suggested it was even Jordan Larson's agent who got in touch with Celtic, made contact with. So we don't know what's going on there. But incredibly, Matt, I have never seen such negativity towards signing a striker of this quality on a free transfer. Mark, what's the deal here? I'm going to tell you my take on it through Twitter, and then you can expand or take it any way you want, right? But I'm looking at Twitter, and I'm looking at everyone talking in the third party, Mark, in a negative way, but no one actually saying, I think this. So I'll say on it, I'll be like, well, I think you'll get more sort of a longer leash from the fans, more sort of patience, more encouragement than anyone else because of his name. I'd see it as a good thing. If Jordan Larson came in and didn't score in his first 10 games, I think he'd come on as a sub the next game and get the biggest roar you could ever imagine for a substitute coming on, Matt. Not the other way around. Oh, he's da. You know, I don't understand this. And the only people I ever seem to be reading on Twitter, right, that are saying, oh, it could go negative because he'll need to live up to his dad. The fans won't like it. They're talking about the fans in this third party. So they don't seem to actually think it. Those who are in favour of it are putting their name on it. Who are these fans? I don't think it's very Celtic fans sort of way, Mark, that we would be so impatient with a young guy based on his dad being a club legend. I don't understand where this negativity is coming from.
It's almost borderline animosity, mate. I've been looking on Twitter and I've been seeing these, as you say, these third-party comments like fans won't like this. Who are these mythical fans? You know what I mean? If you got an opinion, say your opinion. You know what I mean? It's almost like they're poo-pooing the idea. Maybe they're scared to get excited about it. Maybe they're scared for the ambition to go and get them. Now, but for a war, so let's get one thing right here. But for a war in Russia, this £15 million rated player wouldn't be coming anywhere near Celtic.
Fact.
We couldn't afford them at fact, right? Now, but for that anomaly, sorry, can you say that word there? But for that,
right.
Did I say it right there? I can't spell it, but for that, he wouldn't be even linked with us, Bhoycie. So see, let's take away the guy's name, right? Let's forget who he is for half a second here. A guy who scored, you say 26 goals in 75 appearances, was it?
Something like that.
That's roughly 1 in 3. We'll call it 1 in 3. And it's a tough league. They're playing in plastic pitches. They're travelling 8, 9, 10 hours and they're playing each match. It's snowy. It's a good record, mate. And as players went for 30, 40 million for that league scope with a goal ratio like that.
Aye.
And I actually think the biggest cheer you'll hear at Celtic Park this season would be the tannoy announcing that coming on the park is Larsson. And I think the Celtic fans would give him a lot more leeway than they would a random guy for talking's sake last night's opponent's Rapid Vienna on loan or a free transfer. I mean, this guy is the legend's son. He's the legend's son. You know what I mean? He's grew up in Scotland. He's been to school in Scotland. He knows fine well he was a young boy, but he knows fine well how important Celtic are to society
Absolutely.
and how it is to the fans. Now, I dare say that if the guy needing advice on where he's at as a football player, he's only got one phone call away from his dad, and there's not many better people to phone than Henrik Larsson for advice on Celtic.
Mm-hmm. I think you're spot on.
And I think we need to get this kind of attitude, this snobbery out of our heads that he might not be good enough because he's dad played for Celtic. That's the only reason why we would like him. If this guy's name was totally different and he had the exact same background, apart from his name, you'd be saying, a free transfer, ask the question, Celtic. Go ask the question.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I just don't know where, where this sort of negative slant is coming from, but it's rife. It's absolutely rife. And, I've seen Strange of the Doctor. He's got a take on it. I'm going to go down this road now. Fear is a very, very interesting concept to this, Matt, because I think there's two aspects of fear at play. We'll go with Strange of the Doctor's aspect of fear, and then I'm going to give you the other one that I think there is. Fear. It's pure fear that Celtic could have another Larsson. So what Strange loves saying is, he's looking at it, I believe, from opposing fans, and predominantly, I'm guessing here, the MSM, right? And the reason they don't want to be pushing this story is fear that you have another Larsson in your hands. I kind of get that. I think you're absolutely right. Whilst they're selling Joe Aribo for £6 million and spending £1.8 million on a striker, it's hardly sent shockwaves through Scottish football. He might go on and do really well, by the way. We've seen players going for that sort of money at Celtic and really surprise us. So I'm not saying anything side, but it's not had that, reverberating effect throughout the country. I think that's the word.
Well done, mate. That was a good one.
Thanks, mate. I've been working on that. But if Jordan Larsson signs, it's shockwaves, mate. It's shockwaves. It's one of the main news stories on the national news, the lot. It could probably be in the front page of a paper. In fact, it would be in the front pages. It would see, hordes of fans outside the ground on the day it'd be unveiled. Of course, this isn't wanted by anyone else. Of course it is. It's a strange love. That's one aspect of the fear. And I'm going to say 10 out of 10, mate. You are right. I agree. Here's the other bit of fear, though, Mark, and I think it comes from within. There seems to be this real fear, mate, that we have, we've got this fear that for some reason, if it didn't work out, the world will crumble and the world will end. And it's almost like it would offend Henrik and somehow affect his legacy at the club. I don't understand it. I actually happen to think, don't be feared of this, because the least two feared people, if Jordan Larsson signed for Celtic, would be Jordan Larsson and his dad. I don't know, I'll take you back to times when Henrik was doubted in his career, or people thought in English media, maybe he's no world class, maybe he can only do it in Scotland. He shut people up time and time and time again. Look at his reaction after Ewood Park when he swears on the BBC to Ray Stubbs, purely because he's like, you and your pricks in the studio last week, you weren't praising me then, even though I'd scored the winner, by the way. And that's why he swore, because he was letting them know a wee bit of frustration that he was showing at them. But what he's done before that is the hard bit, and that's on the pitch. And that was dinking it over the ranked number one goalie in the English Premier League at that time, Brad Friedel. Stood nonchalant outside of the boot. Wind these guys up. I'm going to guess Jordan Larsson has similar mindset to his dad, right? I think there'll be some genetics there, Mark, that will mean they're cut from a very similar cloth. I think they look at it and they go, what? The other one is, of course, he's going to be third choice. He better get used to being third choice. What player joins a club? What player joins a club to be third choice? He might go, all right, it's going to be really hard to get in the team. These guys back themselves, Mark, to get in the team. See, when John Hartson signed for Celtic, we had Henrik Larsson just scored 53 goals. Chris Sutton had been the best foil for Larsson ever. I don't remember anyone going, well, what we signed him for? It was bring it on, bring on the competition. And by the time we got to the following season, the 2002-2003 season, Martin O'Neill had to play all three of them. He had to play all three because he couldn't leave any of them out because Hartson was making that much of an impact coming off the bench. He forced the manager into a change. You telling me Jordan Larson won't be thinking the same? So where this fear comes from, I don't get, because let's say the three least feared people of it, if the deal was to happen, would be Ange, because Ange isn't signing anyone based on name. He'll only be signing based on ability. He won't be signing anyone because the club's telling him, it might make commercial sense. That's not going to happen this summer. So Ange will rate him, so he'll have no fear. Jordan Larson won't have any fear because he'll back himself, as all good, elite footballers do. And Henrik Larsson, who we seem to be really scared of upsetting if his son doesn't do well, will be the one saying, go and show them. Honestly, see, every time they doubted me, I used to take it in my stride. And they'll be on the golf course laughing about this, mate. Kenny McIntyre having an hour-long panic session with Tom English in the BBC studios about, it could ruin the legacy of the name and all that shite. The Larsons will be sitting there going,
Bhoycie.
They'll be going like that. Bring it on, because this is where they come to the fore, Mark Kearney. Where is Project Fear coming from, and why are we seeing it from our own? Because I think from within, we should have no fear of this move, Mark Kearney.
Absolutely not, and I think you made a good point there about the mainstream media. Now, Celtic fans in mass don't trust the mainstream media, and the fact that they're almost kind of like feeling this kind of myth that it could ruin Larsson's legacy just shows you there's a wee bit of it creeping into them, and the fear, as you're saying. I don't understand it. It's almost aggressive. I really don't understand it. Now, you can't say Ange Postecoglou is the best scout we've ever had and a brilliant manager, but then say he'd sign a guy just based on his father's name.
Exactly.
Because the two of them don't go hand in hand.
No.
Now, the guy, actually, I'm going to surprise a few people. The guy isn't an out-and-out striker. The guy plays almost like a Bada, but one in. Almost like Tom Roderick's been pushed forward. He cuts in the back. He's a bit of a jack in the box. He's not a target man. He's certainly not a target man. He's almost, he kind of plays in that pocket of space, Bhoycie. So there's an argument that he could actually replace Abada in matches the exact same way me and you have spoke about Kyogo slotting in for Jota on the left, Giakoumakis in the middle, and Jota playing on the right. Me and you have spoken about that before, about the two strikers, how it could work. Now, he's quite capable of doing that. He's not an out-and-out striker. He's a jack-in-the-box forward, I'll say. And so I think people are just getting themselves into knots about this boy, saying, I don't understand it. See if he comes and he's a flop, just something, we'll put him in the bracket with the 5 million other flops we've bought. But don't panic about it, because I'm seeing beside Nadir Chifchi, there wasn't one comment about panic there. It was just buying a player who's come in, who's just bit somebody in the arse right enough and got a 5-match ban. But nobody was panicking. Nobody was panicking when we spent £3.5 million in Dirk Brichter. Nobody was panicking when we spent £5 million on the worst goalkeepers ever graced Scottish football. So what is the panic on the best player I've ever seen in my life in the flesh? His son, who is made a name for himself, he's an international football player off his end back. He's played for Sweden. He's played in the Russian top flight. He's scored goals in Europe. What is wrong with a guy like that being linked with Celtic? What's the animosity? What's the fear? I need to get a fucking grip. Just need to get a fucking grip. Look at the man as an individual. The guy doesn't want to be. Look at, I think Mark Burchill and Tony Watt will tell you the pitfalls of having a brilliant moment for Celtic and being looked upon on just that moment, and everything else behind that is a failure. Mark Burchill's goal in the 5-1 game, I think that killed him. I think Tony Watt's game in Barcelona killed him. Against Barcelona killed him. Now, if he comes in, which I really hope he does, the guy his name is Jordan Larson. His name isn't Henrik Larsson, Bhoycie.
Correct.
Judge that boy on what he does on the park, how he behaves after the park, and how he performs as a Celtic player. Forget who his dad is. I tell you something, I'm 38 years old, but I'll be the first person up at a stadium getting Jordan Larson 07 on the back of my tap because I'm a fucking fool. I'm an amateur fool, but I'll not be the only guy doing it. And the Celtic shop
Absolutely not.
We'll run out of letters, mate. It's happened before. See if that ain't Larson on the back of the strip. That'll be the most popular strip you've seen since any Larson left.
Well, we were running out of letters the year Venegoor Hesling was playing up front because there was no letters actually left. You know what I mean?
Run out of space. We're running out of space on the strip. If you remember, it was all gone like this, and it looked like a motorway at one point, like Spaghetti Junction.
I think as well, you're touching on what the next take on this is, right? You're so right when you talk about transfer fees. See, if we signed Albion Ayeti for £5 million, Mark, we're panicking now. We're panicking now how we get this guy out the door on a free because they don't take his wages. That's where the panic is now. But when he signed, I thought, Swiss international, only 3 caps for Switzerland, shite season in the English Premier League, and yet could be right. He'll turn it around at Celtic. We're looking at a guy here who never left Spartak Moscow because he was in the cold or anything like that. I see what I did there. But I mean, like, he left for completely different reasons. And we all know what they are. So he comes having had a successful couple of years spell there. In and out the sort of Swedish international team. He's got 7 caps right now, I believe, for his country. 26 years old. He's got a better track record than an Albion Ayeti. And guess what, Mark? What his transfer fee is? £0, 0 pence. Now, what does that mean? Firstly, it should, in theory, give you more scope to be able to invest heavier wages into, right?
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
I know straight away folk will go, no one should get paid more than Callum McGregor. Well, folk need to get real. That's not how it works. It's going to be people get paid what it is that, whatever the club think they're worth getting paid, on an individual basis. You don't go, because I'm paying one player 35 grand a week, I instantly need to always go to the club captain and make them the top set any other football club in my life. But what we'll get with Jordan Larson is, on a free transfer, more scope to offer a more financial beneficial package because there will be strong competition for him, Mark. But what we'll also do is we'll weigh up the commercial impacts, the commercial revenue that Jordan Larson signing. Now, I spoke a wee 5 minutes ago about the hordes of people that will be at Celtic Park that day. You've already confessed you'll be buying the shirt with the name in the back, Think how many jerseys we sell. To use a wrestling term, this would be Larson Mania, mate. From a commercial point of view now, I know people are going to jump in the bandwagon, but the only example I can think of off the top of my head is David Beckham going to Real Madrid, right? Worlds apart, money-wise, right?
Relatively, it's the same, but
relatively, yes. So Beckham signs for Real Madrid for £25 million, and he only had a year left on his contract at Man United. He was 29 years old, and it seemed quite a lot of money. The estimate was Real Madrid made something like 60 million that season alone on Beckham. So they made a profit by signing. Now, I think relatively, if you're looking at no transfer fee, but say a package between £30,000 to £40,000 a week for Jordan Larson, that's going to cost you the best part of a couple of million for the year, probably £500,000, £1 million sign-on fee. I think Celtic could realistically look to make £1 million plus back on the signing of Jordan Larson and commercial revenue and sponsorship. The media scum for this would be mad. The Celtic fans' desire for him to be front, left and centre at everything. Imagine him in the Christmas advert and all that. You'll be buying his socks the lot, mate. Do you know what I mean? They don't care. God. So they will make a heck of a lot back on what already is a far, far reduced overall financial package because there's no fee. I genuinely think you're looking at it from that point of view, it ticks the boxes. From on the park, none of us could confess to saying they've seen loads of Jordan Larson, right? But what we have seen, you can tell this guy has bags of ability. It all then come down to the other factor that Ange looks for in every signing that he makes, Mark. And he tells you this every single signing, unveiling day, person. I sign the player, and then I sign the person as well, because it's just as important to sign a person as it is to sign a player. That will be the game changer. None of us will be privy to the conversations that these guys will have. But believe you me, if Jordan Larson's was to be unveiled at Celtic, that would mean Ange signed the person as well, Mark. That would encourage me greatly, mate.
I think you're absolutely spot on. I think almost every player that's spoken about the signing talks have mentioned that they had a long chat with the manager. Ange said, look, he's what I'm looking for in a personal level. And that's important to me as well. I think you could have all the ability in the world. The seeker mentally no there. Mario Balotelli, for instance. I think Edouard had a wee bit of a attitude problem as well. You know what I mean? He could have probably went further in the game. I think he's going to stagnate. But that's another story. So if he does come into the club, it'll be because he's passed all these tests. It means he's passed the Ange test, basically, you want to call it that. He's spoken to him. He's thought this guy's on the same wavelength as me. He's going to come in. He's been told possibly that he has to work hard to get in this team. This team's evolving every week, and you're going to have to be at another level. Perhaps, I don't know what Spartak Moscow's level is like, but he's been playing a few months in a different league. So he's going to have to step up a wee bit. So, for me, the mental attitude is probably just as important as your ability on the park, if not more important, because we've found out, I'll mention the guy again, Claxon here, Anthony Ralston. We found out that your mental, sure, Martin, we found out that your mental strength is probably more important than your ability, because your mental strength can almost elevate you to another level, i.e. Anthony Ralston. So if this guy does come in, boys, he's passed all the tests, he's passed the scouting department's look on him, he's passed Angie's human test, and he's passed Angie's, is he fitting in my mould? So if he's good enough for Ange, it's good enough for me, mate. That's my take on it. And forget the guy's name. Just forget the guy's name. The romantic side of it, absolutely. I can't wait to see that boy. I can't wait for You Are My Larson to be sung at Celtic Park.
Go nuts.
My young brother, he never seen Larson. All the young teenagers under the age of 20 never seen Larson. The thought of them getting to see a Larson on the pitch, the place will be fucking electric, Bhoycie. That's the emotional side, which doesn't matter, but Celtic Park would be in rafters the minute that guy steps onto the pitch. The noise is going to be akin to, I remember Mark Viduka's debut. He signed and went on holiday to fucking Australia for 3 months.
That's right.
That's the biggest noise I've ever heard. I wasn't at the John Cadet game when his goal broke the radio station. Remember the
Georgie Cadet? Aye,
when
he
scored. Aye, they cut off the radio waves cut off because the noise was that loud. And
I remember watching that.
I was on TV at BBC, which is strange for back then. And
ITV, I think it was. It was Jerry McNee.
That's right. You're right.
Jerry McNee commentating. I'm sure it was ITV.
I think Billy McNeil might have been the co-commentator. I don't know.
Good shout. Good shout.
I think he did a lot back then, co-commentating.
He did.
And his commentating was absolutely amazing. I've actually got a DVD in there, Bhoycie, the European Cup final. There's one DVD the full 90 minutes, but see the second DVD. If you've not bought this DVD, you should, Bhoycie. The second DVD is Jock Stein commentating on the match and what he's doing with the players through the match. It is the best watch you will ever see. It was the 2-1 DVD they brought out maybe about 10 years ago. I'll actually maybe give you a line it, mate. And
that's class.
The second DVD is Jock Stein commentating on the match. And if you ever want to listen to somebody commentating on what he's doing in the park, then you're not doing any better than Jock Stein. It is the most phenomenal watch I've ever seen. I've watched it for 90 minutes about 5 times, mate, to be honest with you, when I just got it. And it's 90 minutes of football that you've never seen. It's like, if you think the Real Madrid Barcelona game 5-0 was pure football, anybody a neutral should watch that match. I think we had something like 90 goal attempts. It was unbelievable. It was just a phenomenal match. I'm going off on a tangent, but that's the Judge Kearney rant, I suppose.
That's it, mate.
As you call it. But that is something to watch. Anybody that's not got a DVD, get a hold of it. It's fucking phenomenal. But getting back to the Larson thing, I've got to end up talking about fucking, don't know, Patsy Gallup in a minute here. 9/11, wherever you're at. In fact, 9/11 reminds me of the fact that, can you remember we were supposed to play Rosenborg at home that following night, and we cancelled it, so our first match was going to be, had to be Juventus away. And I think we would have won that match at home against Rosenborg, and we might have qualified out that group. So 9/11 cost us a lot. So thanks, America.
It's good knowledge, Mark.
But forget about that. I'm talking a lot of shit now. But going on about Larson, if you want to see, I'll take a wee turn on this. If you want to look at it purely emotional, the way these fans are saying about, his dad, etc. So let's just look at the emotions. There's going to be nobody more backed than that guy. The goodwill for that guy is going to be off the fucking radar. So it's going to be, every goal he scores is going to be cheered that wee bit extra. You know what I mean? When his name's called out the tannoid, it's going to be. So where's the animosity, mate? I just don't get it.
We deserve these moments, Mark, as well. This is what I love this for Kieran here. Kieran comes in. I know you can't read it, Mark, so I'll read it out for you, mate. Right? Sport is not an accountancy firm. There is and has to be some romance in it. Bring the boy home. I totally get this, because whilst everyone seems to be going, what about wages and what about this and what about that? Well, what good is Celtic sitting with £30 million surplus in a bank account then for me, Matt, when I'm spending 30 quid of hard-earned wages to go watch them play on a Saturday afternoon?
Yeah.
What good's that doing anyone? A business, I was saying this during the phone yesterday, a football club is meant to be a business that operates to give the best possible product on the pitch. That is the customer. That's what the customer is buying from the club. All the merchandise and all that goes into that, and then that gets regurgitated out onto the park. That is your film when you go to the cinema. That is your cinema ticket. That's what you're paying for, is the quality on view. We seem to have a football operation that supports earning bonuses in the boardroom. That's not right. When we score goals or we qualify for tournaments, that shouldn't be just instantly thinking that's triggered a £3 million bonus for someone in a suit. Celtic seem to have this the other way around right now. And it's time to give the fans something to fall in love with again, because it's not going to be a European Cup anytime soon. But I think Kieran's right. Give us that wee bit of romance. I'm going to also talk about the football side of it as well. Just one last wee point on this. Whose pedigree was the better? Henrik's or his dad when they joined Celtic at 26 years old, if Jordan were to join? I don't think either of them are miles apart, mate. Henrik Larsson wasn't this world-class striker we were signing when we signed him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be 650 grand with Feyenoord, would he? Having been very much in and out that Feyenoord team, on the bench a lot, and hadn't really settled at all. People forget that when they want to question Jordan Larsson's record in a very competitive Russian league, where you've already touched on several players a year leave upwards of 10, 20s. We've seen even in the 30s of millions of pounds.
Absolutely, mate. And it's bizarre, because when you put it like that, you say to yourself, what is it they're wanting here? I mean, what is it they're wanting? Are they wanting Jordan Larsson to be scoring 45 goals in Spain and then trigger a clause that lets him go to Celtic for nothing? I mean, what is it they're looking for here? Is the guy's pedigree so far good enough for Celtic's scouting department to look at him? Absolutely.
Of course.
There's no questions. If our scouting department can tell me that Osaze Uriguide is good enough right back for Celtic, and the same fucking department can tell me that a boy scored 26 goals in 75 appearances in the Russian league, travelling 8, 9, 10 hours in the snowy conditions, in a league where month to month your salary doesn't get paid sometimes because the regulations are that soft. We've all seen Aidan McGady and Connor. What's the guy who played for
Gary O'Connor?
Both of them said that one week you get 60 grand, then 4 months later you get another 100 grand. It was as bizarre as that. So there's all these personal aspects that get into it, and the guy seems to have equipped himself really well and accounted for his transfer fee. And I really don't know what else people want, Bhoycie. I mean, if they want us to go into the Spanish league and sign a 20-goal a season striker,
Skipovic.
Then, Skipovic, there you go. £2.5 million, a guy who didn't want to companies.
What's the point?
And where was the animosity there, Bhoycie? I mean, a guy who said to his no, and then his deal broke down, and phoned Celtic and said, listen, do you still want me? Because I want you now. This guy, I mean, honestly, I think it's something that me and you are kind of like aligned with. I genuinely think the Celtic fans have been a bit aggressive with this boy, and the guy's not even set foot in Glasgow yet.
I think so. There's a determination to poo-poo this that almost feels as well, right? One last take on it. I think people see it as a power thing, and they think it's undermining Ange. And I think there's a ball-deepness on Ange right now for the fan base that anything that it looks like might be tugging away at his power, then that they're going against it. And it's like, oh no, but it'll only happen if Ange wants him. No one's disputing that. I don't want Ange being forced players on him. Of course, Postecoglou's going to have the final word on it. What we're suggesting is, based on guys Ange has signed so far, with the track record they've got, based on Jordan Larsson's track record in CV and availability, that it wouldn't be that beyond the realms of possibility that Ange might go, fucking right, I fancy him, mate. I think people are very concerned that Postecoglou's authority is getting slightly called into question, and that we'd be signing, because everyone knows the Larsson name, no matter what Ange does to him, I mean, he would need to do something crazy, crazy big here to ever get to, Larsson levels. The Larsson name, it looms large, mate. Let them work together. Don't take everything as a pot shot at Ange Postecoglou all the time. I think there's almost an overprotectiveness here that's going on. I'm like, just calm fucking down. Ange, I don't want Celtic signing players unless Ange says so. Ange doesn't want players signing based on sentimentality. So if you see the laddie with the shirt in his hand, no one's authority is being questioned here. They're all in cahoots. And I'll go back to it, Mark. Show me the photo. Henrik in the grey suit. Jordan Larsson in the middle of the jersey and Ange on the other side. And that just goes, that is the world stops for me, mate. As a Celtic supporter, obviously, within our...
That goes viral.
Just an insane moment. It'd be real forces colliding and the buy-in for the fans, every single one of the doubters as well. It would just evaporate. Every doubter would become a believer just like that, mate, in one glorious image.
But absolutely, Bhoycie, and excellent point. And the minute he signed, I think the clouds would just part. People would just see it for what it is. You know what I mean? When they gave him the backing, I think they're just scared that it doesn't happen, or they're scared of as you said, what it means for Ange. Like, listen, we've had players bought for our managers since day one. We've had guys brought in. Do I think James McCarthy was an Ange signing? Absolutely fucking not.
No.
Right, okay, let's be honest here. Liam Scales, you know what I mean? Just when you follow the paper trail, it leads back to Dermot Desmond, so we all know what's happened there, which is fine. It's fine. I mean, I'm sure if you offered any manager players with James McCarthy's pedigree, whether they want him or no, they would take them in for squad depth anyway, Bhoycie. So I dare say, see the starting 11 that you see is Ange's starting 11. It's the guys he's wanted. It's the guys he's been able to get over the line, right? Now, if this guy comes in, which I hope he does, it means Ange has authorised it. There's no way a guy of that calibre and that profile is going to come in as a signing that's been made by the board to appease fans. Absolutely not, because it's too big a character. It would become far too obvious if the guy wasn't getting a game. It would become a sideshow. So it would. And I don't think Ange is ready for his one for sideshows, mate. I think Ange is a football man. He's a football man, mate, and I don't think he likes bells and whistles either. I think he just likes football, and that is it with him. And if this boy comes in, it will be because he's passed all the tests that me and you spoke about 5 minutes ago. And fans can't have it both ways. They either back Ange to be the powerful man that they all say he is, or they don't. So what one is it? You know, I mean, if this guy comes in, it's because he's a powerful character and he's come in and he's impressed the man.
It's great doing it for both sides, mate. Hey, see, when you're flipping at both sides and going, see, at the end of the day, it's still the same outcome here. You know, it's the same outcome. Get him looked at, Celtic. We beg you. Our romantic side wants it, and we want it to see Henrik Larsson's laddie on the pitch, scoring goals. He might even stick out his tongue at some point, Mark. You never know. That rounds up another Sunday Blether. Regan, I hope I've done you proud, mate. I hope you are enjoying transmitting. I've plenty of sun cream on, son. Big shout out. I don't know if anyone's a tennis fan, but Nick Kyrgios today, I hope he smashes that Djokovic. Love his antics on the court, man. Absolute rock and roll. Mark, I will leave you to it. Thanks so much for joining me on the Sunday Blether, and I'm sure it'll be back to you and Regan Stevenson next week in normal service.
It's Tuesday, Bhoycie. I went back on Tuesday, me and Regan.
Oh, he's going to do a Tuesday this week as well. Magic with me, mate.
No problem. Thanks very much, mate. Take care, guys.
No worries at all. See you all later. Cheers.
Comments about me deliberately trying to cause
cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.